So there are a lot of people talking about identity these days, and I think it's important for us to think about the right way to address this really crucial topic. First of all, we should recognize that in our fallen human condition, that we consistently try to base our identity on what we do. We try to base our sense of value or meaning, or in other words, our identity, on our performance, on our behavior. And this leads often, on the one hand, to if we are good at what we do and we accomplish our goals, it leads to being puffed up with pride, getting arrogant, and essentially worshiping ourselves and thinking we're the greatest thing in the world. So it leads to that kind of sin. And on the other hand, if we consistently are failing and just not ever feeling like we're living up to our own standards or the standards of others, this really crushes us, and we fall into this place of despair, depression, self-loathing, and neither of those are good places. Both of those are an unhealthy way of looking at ourselves and being focused on ourselves. They're both really two different forms of pride. And the good news of the gospel is that it sets us free from both of these alternatives. It sets us free from our sin. It sets us free from our negative behavior. Because in the gospel, we discover that our identity is not based on what we do. It's not based on our performance. We can never be good enough. And we are sinners. We have fallen short. But the good news of the gospel is that if we trust in Jesus, we have a new identity in him. That our identity is based on what Jesus accomplished for us. It's not based on our work. It's based on his work. It's not based on something that is inside of us. It's based on the eternal love of God that comes from outside of us. That's eternal and unchanging. It tells us in Ephesians 1 that in love, God the Father adopted us as sons. That is our new identity. We are children of God. He predestined us before the foundation of the world, that we would be brought into his family, that we would be united to his son, Jesus Christ. This is totally based on his initiative, not on ours. So it's not something that ebbs and flows based on our performance. It's based on Jesus' performance at the cross. And at the cross, Jesus said, "It is finished." And if we truly believe this, it sets us free. It sets us free to really love other people. Because when we try to gain our identity in our own actions and our own behavior, we try to, and based on what other people think about us, and we try to do things so that we meet their standards, we impress them. When we try to do that, we don't actually really love people, we use people. But when we're set free from that striving, when we recognize, no, I have been justified through the work of Jesus. I'm declared righteous. I am perfect in the eyes of God. He has removed my sin from me. I have a new standing before him. I am his child. I have been loved unconditionally, not based on a certain condition that I lived up to, but unconditionally. Now I am set free. We are released into the world to love people in that same way, to love as we have been loved. So this changes everything for us. It's good news. It's glorious news that sets us free from fear. It sets us free from always trying to protect ourselves because we have something to prove. No, we freely receive the grace of God, and we're set free to live as God's people with our identity in Christ. So I recognize that I am a son of God, not based on me accomplishing that or gaining that, but based on what Jesus accomplished at the cross. My identity comes from what God has done in Christ. That is who I am, and that sets me free.